I first want to introduce you to Kim Bill. She is head of Purina Accelerator Lab, situated in Bellevue in the nice, beautiful Switzerland. And she leads the Unleashed program at Purina. Purina Accelerator Lab, Unleashed program. These are terms which many of us are not familiar. Could you explain it, Kim?
Sure. So first of all, I want to thank you for this invitation. I feel very privileged and honored to be sitting around, in front of you guys, very experienced pet industry experts. And very nice to see old faces with my colleagues as well, Elena and Geraldine. Make sure you come and talk to them. And they are here. So, and I'd also like to thank you guys for organizing that wonderful tour last night, Thomas and the rest of you, because this is the first time I've seen Brussels the way I've seen it, so never before. So thank you so much, and of course for that wonderful mussels from last night. So you wanted to know a little bit about Unleashed. So Unleashed was an innovation unit, if you like, that we started planning about 6 years ago. And the idea is that, well, no matter how big you are, no matter how small you are, you can never do everything yourself. And in order to expand your horizons, and in order to understand what's going on in the world, you always need other people to help you improve your knowledge. And what a better way to start than with startups who are actually passionate about pets and who are working day and night 24/7 in order to solve pet parents' pain points. Pet parents of today are quite different, and they evolve because of the demographic shift. Right? I know that in Germany, for example, a lot of pet parents are in the older age group. In Asia, they are of a much younger age group. A lot of them have their first pets ever, and everything in between. And we know that whatever it is, pets are going to stay with us for a long, long time.
I think that's a further advantage of this program. You know more about the individual international markets, isn't it? I think pet holding in Asia is somewhat different, like in Belgium, for example.
You get a lot of knowledge built because you start to understand the intricacies and the pains of pet parents, because startups are there to try to solve the pain points of pet parents. So you do get to see a lot, and of course you see different business models, you see different trends, you see different ways of working. So all in all, I think they add to the knowledge that you already have and make you a better company. And I think that's one of many, many ways of future-proofing yourself, as you had mentioned in your opening speech.
What criteria must a startup have to are interested to have the opportunity to work with you more closely?
So Unleashed is a program. So the flagship of our program, and maybe some of you have heard about it, it is the Accelerator. That's the heart of the program, where we work with startups up to 10 a year. We can't do more because we believe in quality instead of quantity. So unlike some of the big accelerator programs where they put in 120 startups in each cohort, we only accept 10 because we actually surround them with Purina experts. We are 130 years old, so we know a little bit about pet care and pet food and pet parents and consumer insights and so on. So we actually surround these startups with Purina experts who work with them hands-on for 20 weeks and provide them with the support that they will need. In exchange, we get to learn a lot. And we're always very transparent with the startup. We're always doing it together because it's of benefit to each other. We don't do, it takes two to tango. So, and the criteria for the accelerator program really depends on the situation. It's really, really difficult to be a startup, Ralph. You all know that you need a fantastic product market fit. You need to be scalable. You need to have exceptional execution capabilities. You need to be highly differentiated. You need to have impeccable timing. You need sound unit economics. I mean, there are just all these barriers to success that that really, I really admire startup founders because it's not an easy ride, and they pour their heart into it. So obviously, founders are really important.
What do you think? To what extent are startups to be able helping the pet industry to tackle with all the future challenges?
So if you look at the consolidation that's happening right now, I think recently you've seen that a startup like Ollie, not you Ollie, but a New York startup had actually acquired an AI health diagnostic company. And what they've said is that the reason why they are doing this acquisition is because it makes them, differentiated, because they are doing food, everybody's doing food, it's a very, very competitive field. But with this AI technology, they are able to do a better diagnostics, recommend the more relevant food, if you like, and to provide their consumers what they really, really want, because young consumers are digital. They are more demanding. They are not just going to feed their best friend or their kid, their dogs or cats, with just anything on the market. So, yeah, I think if you look at what's happening, and of course the US always is a little bit ahead because they're such a big market, you see that a lot of the digital companies and startups are starting to enable food, the pet food industry. So I think together you provide pet care. So we have to go a little bit, I think, beyond food, because that's a very narrow way of thinking about the pet industry. Food obviously is really, really important, but pet parents want more. They want to know that you sincerely want to improve the pet's life. And there's so many things, longevity, right? I mean, with what's happening right now, pet parents want their pets to live forever, or at least a very, very long time. And if you're able to differentiate, and if you're able to use technology to help you pass the message or help your brand speak to the pet parents, it always helps. And I think pet startups are going to be able to help us because they are tech savvy. They are probably a little bit better at branding. So I think there's a lot that we can bring.
And what can Nestlé Purina bring to these companies? How do you try to support them in their way to success?
Yeah. So because we, again, as I've said, we are a very old company, 130 years old, so we do know the pet industry. Many pet startups are very tech savvy, but for example, they're not terribly consumer centric. Why? Because they haven't got the time, energy, or the supposed resources to go into that. So we can help them in many ways. A deeper understanding of their consumer, how they can bring their value proposition out. A/B testing, for example, I don't know whether you guys do that, but it's really important to test your messages. The segmentation, there's so many things that are really. Being a consumer goods company, I think there are many things that we do have an unfair advantage on because of our scale, our size, our geography. So if startups are open enough and they are transparent enough to really want to get one step higher, we have all the resources to help them. But the accelerator program is just a little bit of what we do. It's the accelerator program. We organize meetups. So pet tech meetups, we are going to do one in Singapore. Some of you were in our LINS meeting, I think. And we bring investors and startups together, so you get to see the investors. You get to network with the right people. You get inspired by other startups. We organize talks that are educational, that gives you inspiration, I hope. We have a pet tech newsletter that's written by Sifted, the startup media company that's the leading one in Europe, that's supported by the Financial Times. We have got blogs. So there are many resources that you can call on. And I think what's most important is that you create that trusted relationship. And you are able to speak the same language. And you are able to really understand why they are looking for that specific type of support. Yeah.
What do startups with Purina itself? How do you benefit from the new information and from the new approaches that startups is introducing?
So it's really important that this is a partnership. So we have no intentions of going off and doing things on our own. So we believe that if we work with a startup, it's because they are bringing us something that we either do not want to do ourselves or cannot do ourselves. So I'll give you an example. Last year we accelerated a gaming company. It's called Dogami. They are based in Switzerland and France. They have dog races. And I don't know how many of you are gamers, Web3 gamers. Maybe some of you are Web2 gamers. And research shows us that by 2027, 70% of us will be gaming, whether we like it or not, or whether we know it or not, because you're always on your mobile phone and you're always doing something that is a little bit fun. Together with them, and because they do dog races, what we wanted to do was to find out from the community. It's about 500,000 of people in the community, and they are regularly discussing on Discourse, whether they would actually accept a brand like Purina being on their site. And their community was like, yeah, sure, we want this to be real. We don't want this to be a fantasy game. We've got dogs, they're real breeds, they're racing, they're racing among each other, who can swim faster, who can run faster, and so on. And we launched the world's first virtual dog snacks on this game. So without any paid SEO, we gathered about 2.8 million views, I think, on the site with the Purina brand.
It's fantastic, amazing, yeah.
They sold 136,000 virtual dog snacks, either with real money or with their dog cryptocurrency. So think of the exposure this has, because gamers are also pet owners. And so this was an interesting situation. Purina will never become a game producer, but I think it's a way of future-proofing ourselves. Another example I can mention is that we worked with a startup from Australia called VetChip. So these guys they're vets, they're awfully smart. They're like, why are we having these dumb microchips in our dogs? I want to have a smart microchip, one with biosensors. I want to be able to measure the respiratory rate, the variation in heart rate, the temperature, the respiration of my dog. And what if I could actually put these biosensors into the microchip? And this is exactly what we have done. We have helped them with our scientific team. Purina has about 800 scientists based in Europe, in Australia, and of course, mainly in the US. And with our IoT department, we've helped them look at the kind of data and the clinical trials that are needed to do that sort of work. So what I've heard is that they have implanted the first few microchips in clinical trials in dogs to see if it's physiologically compatible with the tissues and so on. But that is going to be transformational if that works. Obviously, there's a high risk that it doesn't work, but these are things which are awfully exciting for us. Maybe a third example, because I'm very passionate about that. We worked with a Portuguese startup where we kind of like, vets, they are not very digital. And how do we actually help them improve their business? So with a startup called Petable, we worked with them to do plug-and-play vet e-commerce clinics. So all the vets need to do is to provide some photographs, the color scheme that they've got, and then they can choose from a palette of products. Our competitors brought everybody's products. They can choose 200, 300 SKUs that they can put on their e-commerce site. And their patients can actually buy stuff from the e-commerce site, and Purina people help to onboard them, teach their nurses, technicians how to do that. And so the vets are asking us, why are you spending money and resources on that? Well, because we want to make your life easier, and we think that nutrition is a very important part of therapy. And to our surprise, our market share in Portugal in the vet channel increased from 10% to 35% without us doing any promotion of our products. And because you are helping them and they have you on top of mind, So there are a lot of things that you can do. It does not necessarily need to be very transactional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Yeah, very, very interesting to see. To listen to all these international examples, yes, and how different the markets are. Yeah, we are also in close connection with startups, not at the same level than you, but we do our best with our competition. And I see in many presentations of startups the wish to be sustainable. My impression is that sustainability is a very important topic for many newcomer companies. Do you have the same impression, and do you learn lessons which you can use it at Purina PetCare?
Yeah, so sustainability is a very tricky one, as you all know. What we think of sustainability and what consumers think of sustainability may be slightly different. And
yeah, we see tomorrow. Yes, we have a focus tomorrow on this very, very different topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and whether consumers are willing to pay for sustainability is one thing. Them wanting sustainability is another thing. So it is a rather complex topic. Having said that, it is really important for us as an industry to be responsible. And I think, if you want us to be future-proof and we want us to be a well-regarded industry, we need to be ahead of the game and to try our best to be as sustainable as possible. So we do work with startups that are trying to become B Corp. That's one thing. Or, a lot of our assets are B Corp. We try to instill a mentality, even when we do, Purina, when we do M&As and so on, sustainability is one of the factors that we look at, supply chain and so on. Many times, I think there are many companies out there that are doing fresh human-grade food and so on, which is very nice. But we're also competing with the human food chain. So this is something that one has to think about. And as the pet population grows, we do not know the answer, what it should be. But it is not an easy thing. Of course, the other aspects of sustainability that we look at is ingredients. That ingredients is probably the highest factor when you want to come up to sustainable pet food. So we have accelerated cultured meat companies, cultivated meat. There are some way to go yet, but the idea is fantastic. And over the years, we have seen the enablers of, for example, cultured meat improving. Startups that are doing scaffolding and growth factors, plant-based, and so on and so forth. Many times we are very much ahead of the consumer. So, like I've said, it is really important to have this impeccable timing because we need to be prepared, and when the consumers are prepared, we ought to be there to provide them with what they've always wanted but never expressed it until that very moment.
Yeah, I see.
So there are very many other aspects as well. Packaging is a no-brainer. How do we have recycling points? All these things are easy to kind of have a conversation on, but the execution is pretty difficult. But again, I think with the help of many partners, startups, and very intelligent and creative people out there, we will come nearer to a solution where at least we are able to pass the message on to our consumers that this is something that we are serious about.
I think you will get many new information from your contact with new companies. How do you transport all these knowledges and new approaches to the everyday business of Purina PetCare? Could you describe a little bit the way you are doing?
So there is also a need to understand that we don't publish what we know openly, always only with the agreement of the startup, because we need to make sure that we are a trusted partner. And a trusted partner doesn't disclose things that our partner feels are trade secrets and things that they do not want to publicly announce. So we share things on a need-to-know basis. We have our IP lawyers, with our lawyers to make sure that there are lines that are drawn. So we are very careful when we work with startups. But the good thing about us is that we work in many different territories. So what's happening in, I gave you the example of Portugal, unless the Portuguese startup wants to scale and wants to, try to bring their products to Spain or Italy or Southern Europe, and that's when we start the conversations. But we would not talk about their problems unless they want to.
I see,
so we keep it within the team. And I think that's how you create trust as well, because our startups, the startups that we accelerate, have got this very special relationship with us. They know that we want them to do well, because if they do well, we do well. So it's really important to make sure that you get all these, I would say, intellectual property includes data, know-how, trade secrets out of the way. So, for example, we would not work with a startup on formulation because it's not something that we would do. So we are very transparent when we start to work with them.
Yeah, you have mentioned the questions of the contact to investors. That's also a question which I'm occupied in my conversations with startups. Many startups are wondering if they should stay independent or autonomous, or should they look for a partner, for an investor, so they can scale the expansion. And I think every side of the question says pros and cons. Are these questions you are discussing with startups, the questions about a partner or not?
Yes, I guess sometimes you come to a relationship where they ask you for advice, and you have to give an advice like a friend. And it is a very difficult question to answer, because everybody's got their ways of thinking about investment.
Yeah, it's an individual, that's clear. Yeah.
And we've got an investor network, and of course, as Purina, we do a lot of transactions with investors as well. And some of our investors are also advisors to some of our startups, so they do kind of like probe them a little bit and ask them, well, what is it that you want? Now, if you want an exit immediately, then it's a very different situation than when you want to build out the company and then do an exit in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is. So it's a question that is very individual. I think that we all need cash to be able to run the company. So you can bootstrap as much as you want, but at some stage, unless you are already running, your unit economics in such a way that you get profits and so on, you need to invest in order to go to the next stage. So the kind of investors that you choose, hopefully you have. I hope that you've got the opportunity to choose your investors. That's always a good situation. Some people don't have the opportunity to choose their investors. So there are many ways of getting to the next step. But, a lot of it depends on the state of the startup. Sometimes they don't really have a choice. So it's a great luxury question when a startup can kind of decide, do I want to raise, do I not want to raise, do I want a partner, do I not want a partner? But I think startups also have this savviness. You need to have this IQ, right? It's better to split the pie and scale rather than own everything yourself and not get anywhere. So, yeah.
You have told us the program is running 6 years ago. Have you find changes in the presentation, in the performance of the startups during this time?
It's amazing how the knowledge level has come. So an example is, for example, at the beginning of the journey, a lot of startups were like trying to do telemedicine. And they were trying to do direct-to-consumer telemedicine. And it's a no-brainer, right? It's so much easier to call a vet instead of having to take a car, get your dog, your cat into a cage, bring them to the vet, wait there for hours, and etc. But throughout the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years, you see that the direct-to-consumer televet companies are finding it quite hard. Why? Because the rate of engagement is low. You only call a vet when your pet is sick. And at the end of the day, you still go to the vet because many times when they're that sick, they need to go to the vet. So the retention rate is low, subscription is really difficult, there's a high churn, etc., etc. So you see that as you go on, startups start to see the models of other startups and start to change. Okay, maybe I have to tweak the model. I need to do a B2B2C or a B2B or whatever it is, white label. So you do see that there is some consolidation of the knowledge of business models with startups. But now startups are using technology, AI technology. I'm very, very, I'm very optimistic and yet a little bit skeptic about AI machine learning. I think AI is fantastic. Look at the computer vision companies, right? Computer vision is fantastic. What if you can just take a picture of your pet and it tells you whether your pet is healthy, not healthy, and so on. So no-brainer. It's so passionate. At the same time, the pet category, as you know, is a very emotional category. You make one mistake and that's it. You will have lost the trust. So so that there are pros and cons. There are always things that you need to be very careful about because the reputation takes a very, very long time to build and a minute to lose.
Yeah. You mentioned EI. That will be a main topic this afternoon, and I also see that AI is getting more and more significant also for startup companies, also in their everyday business. A last question of our conversation: what are the future plans of your Unleashed program? How do you want to develop it in the future?
Everything evolves. So just like a startup, Unleashed is a startup within a big organization, and I'm sure we'll need to pivot. We've had very many startups apply to us. We think that the accelerator program will continue to go. We have expanded geographically. So Unleashed started in Europe. That was where we started 5 or 6 years ago. Now we've gone into LATAM. We've accelerated companies from Brazil and Mexico, and it's amazing because they think differently, right? People from South America, and they're just so smart and so creative and very hardworking. And, we have got these stereotypes, mañana, we can always sit on the beach and wait for tomorrow. But it's not like that in real life, which is amazing. And they're very creative. The ways that the different ideas that they've got. And that's very exciting. We also expanded to AOA. So, what we mean by AOA is Asia. We're going to organize our first pet tech meetup in Singapore, actually, in November. And we have got startups from India, from Thailand, Philippines, Singapore coming to join us. So it's a very different sort of pet industry there. Like I've said, many of them are first-time pet owners. Their pets are usually smaller. They take very good care of their pets. It's a newly industrialized country, some of these. Sometimes pets are a lifestyle. So, there are just so many different segments of pet owners that keeps you learning, right? So geographical expansion is one thing, and the other thing is really looking at different verticals. Can we actually, for example, look at human health and see what can come into pet health? What can we do in terms of longevity, pet health, wellness? Are we able to test and learn in these new verticals? So they're just, your mind goes wild with what can happen, but obviously you have to make a choice. So we are never short of ideas.
Yeah, I see. I think so, yeah. Thank you very much, Kim Bill.
Thank you.